My name is Sasha Malslov. I'm a photographer. I was born in Ukraine and I moved to the States about 40 years ago. And I spent some time in Ohio, then New York, and then after the full-scale invasion, moved back to Kyiv. So the title of the book is Saints. The title itself obviously is very interpretive, but in this instance, I wanted to call it Saints specifically because the people whose stories are featured in these books have become saints for somebody. Each individual story represents a story of personal sacrifice, self-sacrifice, and a story of sainthood. Ukrainians have sacrificed a lot in this war. People have put their own lives on the back burner. People have sacrificed their families, their businesses, everything they had in life in order to save somebody else, in order to save their parents, in order to save their children, their families, their cities, their towns, their villages, and people who they never met and never will meet. Some people have paid the ultimate sacrifice and sacrificed themselves. And each person knowingly or unknowingly become a saint for somebody, and that's why the title is Saints. It's a lot of portraits in this book. You know, the main visual sequence is portraits like this. They're kind of resembling Renaissance paintings or icons. So obviously that's on purpose because I wanted to replicate those portraits in kind of Renaissance style and portray people in these portraits as saints. This was when Maryna actually came back to Kyiv after spending a few months in Kharkiv, and she was very worn out because she volunteered mostly with evacuations and delivering medicine and goods to elderly people. And after seeing Kharkiv, and the first few months were very intense in Kharkiv. After seeing Kharkiv being destroyed in front of her eyes and people suffering, and she's seen a lot of stuff there. So, you know, the kids really kind of play a huge emotional role in this war, of course, because you see so much suffering, and you seeing kids every time and telling kids stories is most painful and most touching, I would say, for a lot of journalists. And this is a story of a girl named Polina. I met her in Borysenko, it's Kharkiv region, and her family was trying to escape the occupation. This is an Italian battalion, there are 3 children, and this is Polina. So they took her in and adopted her, and they were in a village nearby when the column of cars was shot at by the Russians. Supposedly before that, the people who were trying to escape, they paid off the Russians to be let through. But unfortunately, they were shot at, and a lot of people got killed in that column. And Polina survived. Her parents didn't survive. Later on, a person from a nearby village found her in a car with her dead parents and took her in. After that area was liberated, he found the family who Polina belonged to. This is her godmother and godfather, and they took her in. She was a scared kid. She was very shy, and I think she navigates in a very difficult space, still understanding. You know, she lived through this and she saw it in front of her eyes, and she spent some time with the bodies of her parents before she was found. So she understands what happened, but she also understands that this is her new family. She lives with them, and this story really touched me, and I wanted to include them in the books. So this is a photo of Andrii Pilshchykov with the call sign Jews. It was a sunset. The sunset came right about when we were shooting at the airfield. He died during a training accident last year, and this photo was taken a few months before that. It's very difficult to even to come to a realization that people that are in this book and that you became friendly with passed. There's unfortunately a few people in this book that already passed. Also, this photograph became a symbol of his legacy in a way, because after his passing, people realized that there's not a lot of photos of him left, especially without his mask, because during the full-scale invasion, he also became a public advocate for Ukraine and a target for Russians. So he tried to keep a very low profile. He became instrumental in getting F-16s to Ukraine. He met with a lot of officials from the United States. He was an often guest in the Washington, D.C. circles, but he kept a very low profile. So there was not a lot of photos of him without the mask, and this photos was one of the few that was taken just of his face. You know, interestingly, for a lot of the folks who are in this book, they're obviously not models, but everybody in a way was excited to be photographed. I would say everybody was excited just to kind of to show themselves in this role that they're proud of. In the moment, they know that it's crucial in their life and in the life of others. Okay, this is a great story. A lot of these stories, I'm not sure if this is irrelevant or not, but in any other project that I worked on, story or long-term project, I've never really gotten so close with the subjects. I've never emotionally, you know, I haven't become friends with many, but it's like I really feel for them. I really feel their stories, and I stay in touch with a lot of the people who are in this book. And in this instance, he has passed. That's Yevhen Baboshchenko. I met him in Kherson, I think the third or fourth day after the liberation of Kherson. We were there. So he was in territorial defense in the beginning of the invasion, and when the Russians surrounded the city and occupied the city, he decided to stay. He just hid his weapons and his uniform, and he decided to stay and work at the tire shop. And he was passing information to the Ukrainians. He was very secretive about it, obviously. He was secretive about it to the point where he didn't know that his nephew, who works in the same body shop, also working with the Ukrainians, he only found out about a few months after the occupation. And after liberation, he rejoined the armed forces, and he passed. He was killed near Bakhmut. And there I met Larysa. That's her right here. So she is a K-9 specialist, and before the full-scale invasion, she was also helping the military and the police to search for the wounded and for the dead. We met in this village where they were looking for the bodies of Ukrainian soldiers that were fighting there. After I met her, a few months later, in the summer of 23, she got blown up on a booby trap, and she was severely injured, and she recovered. The recovery took more than half a year, and now she's back at it. She's doing the search missions again. She's doing the same thing, and there's so many stories like that where people are just bouncing back and again putting their life on the line to help others. And that's kind of a perfect example of self-sacrifice and sainthood. Oftentimes, the images that people see on TV of destroyed buildings and soldiers in trenches don't really convey how much each individual person have put on the line in order to help others and fight for the freedom of their people. So I just wanted to tell a few stories, and that's a drop in the sea to help people understand what Ukrainians have put on the line.